Welcome, brave souls, to creepy nightmares, where the uncanny lurks and secrets slumber in the darkness. I'm John, your guide on this captivating journey through shadowy tales and unexplained events. If you have a taste for the supernatural and enjoy being surrounded by the specters of fear, you're in the right place. Let's delve together into the dark realm of the inexplicable, where the unimaginable becomes real, and the night seems to whisper its own stories. But be cautious. What you're about to hear might disturb your sleep for a long time. So get ready to confront your fears and immerse yourself in the world of creepy nightmares.
I would like to apologize to you first. I'm really sorry. In times of need, I'm seeking your help. Please help me. Listen until the end. That's all I'm asking of you. I don't know what to do or who to turn to. Please just help me. That's all I'm asking for. My name is Andrea, and I'm a single mother. I'm not sharing this for recognition, and I don't expect praise or rewards like many would in my social circle. They want praise and recognition. I just want a little of your time. I view motherhood as a burden. It's necessary, yes, but still a burden. My son's name is Jesse. He's 11 years old and in 5th grade. Jesse began his 5th grade journey like any other child would. He was a carefree child, full of life and energy. But all that changed when he met Stan on Tuesday. Stan had recently joined Jesse's class. He and his parents had moved from another neighborhood. Jesse's teacher had seated Stan next to him. When I picked Jesse up from school on Tuesday, he told me that Stan was his new best friend. But he wasn't acting like himself. He was pale and sweaty. I felt his forehead, but he didn't seem to have a fever. I asked him how his day was, but all he said was that Stan was his new, very best friend. Stan is my new, very best friend, he said. Yes, I can't wait to meet him, I replied. Mom, Stan is amazing. You should meet him. He's my new best friend, the best. We repeated this conversation 1,000 times that evening. As I put Jesse to bed, he looked at me with tears in his eyes. He put a hand in front of his mouth and gestured for me to come closer. I leaned over, and he removed his hands from his mouth. You know how kids do it when they want to share a secret. So I turned my head towards him, and he whispered something in my ear that sent shivers down my spine. Back then, I didn't quite know why, but I got goosebumps. Mom, do you believe me? He whispered. I sat up and looked at him. Believe you in what, sweetheart? Stan is my new best friend. I nodded and checked his temperature again. He still seemed to have no fever. I went to bed, but I could hardly sleep that night. On Wednesday, when I was taking Jesse to school, he had a strange expression on his face and said he didn't want to go. Don't you feel well? I asked. No, he replied, nervously chewing on his lower lip. I hadn't seen him do that before. I have to go to school, he said. He opened the door and went out. No, goodbye. No, I love you. Nothing. With his head down, he climbed the school stairs. I released the brake and drove to work. A little boy stood right in front of my car. Just 2 seconds longer, and I would have hit him. The boy was pale, had a tuft of dense blonde hair on his head, and bright blue eyes. He knocked twice on the hood of my car, waved once, and then went up the stairs. When I picked Jesse up from school on Wednesday, he looked much better. He was a bit pale, but he seemed happy. He told me about his day, about dinosaurs, music, and math. Then he told me about recess. After the math class, we had recess. Mom, you won't believe what I did today. Tell me, I said, smiling as I continued to drive. Playing soccer or tag, I thought. The things boys do during recess at that age. Something innocent. Something normal. I joined a church, he said. I frowned. During recess? Yes, he said, smiling. Stan's church. I thought it was some game the kids were playing. What is Stan's church? I asked. It's Stan's church, Mom. He laughed as if I were silly for asking. But what do you do there as members? I asked. A lot of things. Today we just listened to Stan. He said many funny things. Then I got tired and fell asleep. Many of us fell asleep. I turned into our driveway and we got out of the car. And that was it? I asked. Yes, it was strange, but the kids didn't seem to be doing anything wrong. Stan also gave us flyers, he said. Jesse pulled out a crumpled piece of paper and handed it to me. It was parchment paper, with 2 words written in black ink. Stan's church. It was strange, but still nothing wrong. The boys were just playing, I thought. Yesterday, I brought Jesse home from school and felt that something was wrong with my boy. He seemed panicked and anxious. What's wrong, sweetheart? I asked, checking his forehead again, but no fever. Today, we played the Soul Game, he said. His head turned around. He couldn't sit still. He looked around anxiously as we drove home. The Soul Game? I asked. Jesse just nodded and kept looking around. Sweat formed on his face. What's the Soul Game? I asked. Jesse shook his head and said nothing. Jesse, what's the Soul Game? I can't tell you, Mom. I can't. The rules are evil, very evil. What about Stan? Will Stan explain the rules to you? No, Jesse screamed, nearly scaring me to death. Don't ask him about the rules, please, don't, please, he said in a fearful, trembling voice. I turned into the driveway, confused and anxious. Promise me, Mom, please, please promise, Jesse begged desperately. He seemed truly scared. I held him in my arms and rocked him back and forth. I hadn't done that since kindergarten. He fell asleep in my arms, and I took him inside the house. I put him directly into his bed and tidied it up. He just needed sleep, I kept telling myself. Then I left him lying in bed and had dinner alone. Around 9 p.m. when I went to bed, I checked on him once more. He seemed to be sleeping soundly, so I lay down. At 12:18 a.m., I woke up as Jesse seemed to be screaming his soul out. I rushed into his room, but he wasn't in his bed. I turned on the light, and Jesse jumped out of his closet as if something was chasing him. He clung to my leg and continued to scream. I tried to calm him down and figure out what was going on. What he was saying didn't make sense. He was screaming about the Soul Game. I kept asking, but he wouldn't say anything. I tried to get him back into bed, but he wouldn't let me. Finally, I just brought him to bed with me. Jesse fell asleep immediately. I lay on my side and stroked his hair when he opened his eyes and looked at me. With a slightly darker and strange voice, he said, "Tomorrow after school, I will explain the rules to them, lady." Then he closed his eyes again. What was wrong with my child? I wondered. In the darkness, I stared at the ceiling for a long time. Then I turned to the side and stared at the bathroom. Do you know that feeling when sometimes, just before falling asleep, your leg suddenly jerks and wakes you up? Or when you feel like you're suddenly falling? That happened to me all night, over and over again. But I didn't fully wake up because I thought I saw something in the bathroom door. Every time my eyes began to close, I saw the dark outlines of something big standing in the doorway and woke up again. Of course, there was nothing there, and eventually I fell asleep again. But then the outlines appeared again, closer to me, as if they had moved a little closer. That happened repeatedly until dawn. This morning, on the way to school, Jesse seemed completely absent. I felt the same way. I was even more exhausted. I considered asking Jesse what he had told me before going to bed, but I couldn't. I was afraid he would get hysterical again. So, I let it be. He didn't say a word during the entire ride. He behaved like a robot, without emotions. Shortly after I dropped him off, I received a call. I was supposed to pick him up again. He had thrown up. When I picked him up, it was the same. I asked him questions, but he didn't give clear answers. I wanted to take him home so he could change, and then I planned to take him to the doctor. He didn't say anything as I turned into the driveway. "Can Stan come over today?" he asked me. He stared out the window. "Do you think it's a good idea if you're not feeling well?" I asked hesitantly. I really wanted to meet this child, but it seemed like Jesse didn't really want him to come. But I wanted to get to the bottom of this. "Yes," Jesse said. "Okay, do you have his parents' number?" I asked. "No," he replied. I asked how I could talk to them if I didn't have their number. But then, there was a knock on the door. I opened it, and before me stood the little pale boy with white hair and bright blue eyes, the one I almost hit on Wednesday. A girl with the same white hair stood next to him. "Yes?" I asked. "Hi, Driz," the boy said. "Is Jesse home?" The name shouldn't have been known to the boy. That was my nickname in college, coined on a night when we had drunk a lot. "No," I said. "It's okay," the girl said. "I'm Devin, and you already know my brother's name." "Stan," I said. The girl covered her mouth and giggled. Stan smiled and shrugged. "It's quite simple, lady. Rule number 1, don't walk past mirrors in the dark. Rule number 2, don't leave doors open when you go to sleep. Ask your son about rule number 3 and keep the following in mind. A creak means you're falling back. A rustle means you're almost lost. When the light goes out, hopefully, you won't see the dark shadow creature in the corner. Hopefully, you won't hear it breathe as you close your eyes and begin to fall asleep. And if you hear a pop, well, let's hope you never hear a pop." Stan turned around and walked away with his sister. I stared after them and shook my head. I wouldn't play this silly game. I went back into the house and found Jesse at the kitchen table. He was crying. "What's wrong?" I asked. "I heard a pop," he whispered fearfully. My mouth went dry. "When does the game end?" I asked. "Never. It never ends," he whispered softly, his voice trembling. My heart began to beat faster. "Jesse, what's rule number 3? He made a long face, took a deep breath, and said, "Rule number 3, knowing all 3 rules makes you a player." My heart seemed to burst in my chest. "And what happens if you lose?" I asked. "When it's dark, you'll hear them getting closer. They like to let you know when they're getting closer." "Who?" I asked, horrified. "Stan and Devin. They'll reach out for you through mirrors and open doors, pulling you in." "And how do you win?" I asked. "You win by explaining the rules of the soul game to more people than the person who explained them to you. As I said before, I'm so sorry."
Thank you for joining me on this eerie journey into the unknown. If you found chills running down your spine and your curiosity piqued by the mysterious tale, don't forget to subscribe to Creepy Nightmares. By subscribing, you'll ensure you never miss out on our spine-tingling stories that will leave you questioning the boundaries of reality. Hit that subscribe button, tap the notification bell, and prepare yourself for more nights of haunting narratives. Stay curious, stay scared, and until next time, remember, darkness holds secrets beyond imagination.